Scorpio is about passion, just pure passion. Negative or positive, it's passion, it's involvement, it's intensity. On a more abstract level, like I like to describe the science, it's a penetrating or piercing force going inside something. It's going inside something which is hidden. It has to do with the hidden dimension of life.
Hello and welcome to Astrology Insights. I'm Amber Rose,
And I'm Vincent Botteja.
and today we're going to be talking about the zodiac sign that everybody loves to hate, Scorpios. So, Vincent, can you please start off by telling us about some of these more negative attributes that Scorpios seem to have collected over the years?
Um, yes, although I don't agree with this, but the bad name that Scorpio people, Scorpios have, has to do with being jealous, being really emotional about things, fanatic, uncompromising, stuff like that.
Okay, super intense
Intense,
also
yeah,
is one
very
I know.
intense, yeah.
Quite possessive.
Possessive, yeah, jealous, possessive, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and where did this come from? Why did Scorpios or people with Scorpio energy get this reputation?
Mhm.
Could you tell us about the history?
Yes, it has to do with the energy of Scorpio. We'll explain about that a little bit later. But it also has to do with the name of the sign of Scorpio within the tradition of astrology. And it has to do with something that, in my eyes at least, went wrong. I mean, this is my personal interpretation of the history of astrology, but psychological astrology, that's very popular nowadays, started evolving around 1900. And in those days, like people interested now in astrology, and you're surfing the internet, in those days, they sort of surfed old libraries for old books on astrology. And in those books, descriptions of the sign of Scorpio, so also the eighth house is the equivalent house of Scorpio, were quite negative. And that has to do with another kind of astrology, other than psychological astrology. In the Middle Ages, many books were from the Middle Ages or medieval traditions. There was not so much psychological astrology. A lot of astrology was so-called horary astrology or electional astrology. It was very good astrology, actually. It's nothing wrong with it. It's excellent astrology, but the technique is really different from psychological astrology. It's a astrology of picking the right moment to do something, whatever it is, some project, going to war or signing a contract, um, making a marriage deal, you know,
Hmm.
in those days. And it's also the astrology of questions. For example, you lost an object. People would go to an astrologer to ask them, where's the object? And the astrologer could tell. So it's quite spectacular. The astrologer could tell it's close to your house or very far away. It's either underwater or it's under the earth or something like that.
So interesting.
Yeah. And the same goes for lost people or lost cattle, which was also a big problem. An astrologer could then tell you it has been stolen. No, the cattle wandered off. He could also tell you if the cattle or the missing person died. And a clue for that would be Scorpio or the eighth house. Sometimes also Pisces in the 12th house, which also had back then a bad name. However, Pisces and 12th house, the name of that sign was sort of restored in the 20th century because of all these spiritual movements in the 20th century that identified very much with Pisces, and Pisces is also connected to Christianity,
Okay.
the age of Pisces and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But that didn't happen with Scorpio. So Scorpio maintained this bad reputation, which it's not a bad sign. It was just an indicator in these other astrological techniques for something lost forever because of death, for example. Something
Okay.
that disappeared forever.
And that's that mysterious energy that Scorpio also holds,
Yeah,
that kind of like lost in the
yeah,
darkness.
yeah, yeah,
underneath the surface,
yeah,
can't be
yeah,
found.
yeah.
Okay, super interesting.
There is a reason why there was this association, but somehow these early psychological astrologers, many of them at least, just took over this quite uncritically. These negative quality of Scorpio within that specific astrological technique. So it became a sign of death and of really negative emotions like possessiveness and obsession and all these negative things. Also sexuality, which was considered also very bad, especially in these early days, early in the 20th century, when psychological astrology was also very much interconnected with new kinds of spirituality that were quite negative also about sexuality, since
Okay.
sexuality is something of the flesh,
Yeah.
and they were really about the spirit, not of the flesh. And Scorpio seemed to represent everything connected to corruption, death, flesh,
Okay.
emotions that tie you to the flesh, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that's where it comes from, this bad name.
Okay, really interesting. And we can also see there how astrology, or not necessarily astrology itself, but the perception of astrology can be heavily influenced by culture,
Mm-hmm.
religion, or spirituality that's
Yeah,
in play at that time,
yeah,
time,
yeah,
like depending on when we look at it,
mm-hmm.
we could have a completely different
Yeah,
interpretation of
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Okay, super interesting. So then on the flip side to that, what would be some of the positive attributes that could redeem Scorpio energy in 2023?
Yeah. Um, you already mentioned intensity. Intensity is not bad. Intensity is one of the main characteristics of Scorpio energy. And again, I've been mentioning this before, but be careful to look at the signs like, do I have Scorpio in my chart? Is my sun or my moon or my rising sign in Scorpio? Do I have many planets in Scorpio? And just look at the energy that it represents and see if you can recognize that either in your life or in society or other people. You could imagine what's a life without any intense experiences.
Mm, very true.
Um, so Scorpio is about involvement, being involved into something. Um, and ultimately, maybe Scorpio is about passion, just pure passion. Negative or positive, it's passion, it's involvement, it's intensity.
Mm-hmm.
On a more abstract level, like I like to describe the signs, it's a penetrating or piercing force going inside something. It's going inside something which is hidden. It has to do with the hidden dimension of life. So connected to Scorpio energy are, for example, subjective. Everything that is subjective or psychological is actually not visible. It's hidden.
Mm.
So penetrating that field, if you're really interested in psychology, you have Scorpio energy. The same goes for intimacy. Intimacy is connecting on a very deep level, actually sort of interlacing or going through each other. That's real intimacy. So intimacy is connected with Scorpio energy. Also the occult or esoterics or
Taboo as well.
taboos as well. Things that are hidden.
Yeah.
And because we tend to have some negative associations with the hidden, like, well, it's not hidden for nothing. Like it's no coincidence that that is hidden.
Mm-hmm.
But some things are just hidden by nature,
Mm-hmm.
like what's inside. But also secret things belong to the field of Scorpio. Everything that's internal to your body, your psyche, to an affair, to a business, Scorpio energy. The unknown in general, or the other.
Well, that piece, the unknown in general, what are people afraid of more than the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if Scorpio
Yeah.
represents that which is unknown,
Yeah.
Scorpio is so easy to vilify
Yeah.
and to demonize.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the unknown
Yeah.
is a threat.
Scorpio has to do in this respect with edge experiences. The unknown is an edge.
Hmm.
It's forever an edge, like the that which is internal by definition. Um, some mysteries, like the mystery of life. You can know everything about every chemical element in the body, and still we cannot explain the mystery of life.
Mm.
Like, okay, how does it start? Like in the womb, where does it come from? These things touch upon the energy of Scorpio. Actually, being fascinated by these subjects.
Mhm.
Fascination is actually a Scorpio energy.
I guess fascination is a positive expression of obsession, right? It's
Yes,
a
yes,
nice way to
yeah,
say the same
yeah,
thing in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Yes, very much. Scorpio energy has to do with to possess
Mm.
or being possessed, very often at the same time. In these words, it sounds maybe negative because you think, okay, possessive people and relations. Um, but if there's a subject that you really want to possess, like you want to know everything about it, for example, astrology,
Mhm.
you need a Scorpio passion to dive into it, especially complex subjects where not everything is crystal clear. Subjects or businesses or activities that need total devotion. Total devotion is Scorpio. To be devoted to something. Maybe it's piano playing. You need Scorpio energy.
Mm.
Um, and also connected to the hidden, researchers, detectives, people researching things, trying to uncover what's hidden.
Private detectives
Private
and
detectives,
investigators,
yeah, they all exemplify Scorpio.
archaeologists.
Yeah, they all exemplify some archaeologists. There are more qualities into archaeology, but um, there's definitely a Scorpio element
Hmm.
to it.
Anyone who works in realms of psychology and
Yeah, deep soul
psychiatry.
work, deep therapeutical work
Yeah.
is Scorpio energy in action. Many therapists have strong Scorpio energy. Otherwise, you couldn't do it. You need this involvement with another person. You this beautiful English expression, going down the rabbit hole, is Scorpio.
I love to go down the rabbit
Well,
hole.
that's Scorpio. That's a Scorpio energy.
Yeah.
Um, and the more in psychological terms, as I already mentioned, it's passion, it's involvement,
Mhm.
going all the way through, whatever, in whatever way. Also, dependency is Scorpio.
Dependency in a is there a positive expression of that? Because dependency sounds unhealthy to me, to be dependent on
I know.
someone, something.
Uh, that's why I'm mentioning it, because it has this unpopular name. But say you commit yourself to something completely, your fate depends on it. That's not negative. It's just a choice. It's a choice of strength.
Mm.
If, say, you connect yourself to the royal house, you're a knight and you're connected to yourself to the royal house, you will die for the king or the queen. And the saying goes, if you, but it's also an expression of dependency. You could also say, well, man, just think. I mean, if it gets really dangerous, step out of it. But it's not, that's not total devotion.
Hmm.
That's not putting all your being into this cause, if it's a cause or,
Yeah, you give your oath, you
yeah,
lay down your life.
yeah, or a project. So it's any kind of dependency. Of course, also negative kinds of dependency.
Hmm.
Um, but children in a dependent position from their parents are actually in a Scorpio relation. So everybody knows Scorpio energy. Maybe that's a more psychological reason why it's not so popular, because everybody knows the vulnerability and the potential humiliation in dependency. And of course, everybody knows dependency in relations,
Yeah.
which can be painful. But maybe we overlook the positive part of dependency, also in relations. It's also very motivational, very it makes you feel stronger, but it's actually based on dependency. Um, Scorpio energy is also connected to a financial dependency. So being financially dependent on others, or traditionally, it's also connected to, it's more the eighth house, but it's very similar to Scorpio, the money of others, being inheritances or pensions or insurances. People working those fields also express a Scorpio energy. Money is actually energy. It's the energy of others. You're working with it. When the energy of others is involved, like the money of others, also the values of others are involved. It makes you dependent. You are not free to think and do as you like.
Right.
You need to, how do you say that in English, to pay responsibility.
Pay your dues.
Yeah, something like that.
Super interesting. So
Yeah.
then, from everything that you've shared so far, it's almost like maybe this is stating the obvious, but Scorpio energy itself is very Scorpio in the sense that it's so hidden. All of this knowledge about Scorpio energy is so hidden. I mean, everything that you've shared, it's a lot of, especially the kind of more positive attributes, or looking at it through a more positive lens, it's like all of that has been hidden underneath the surface, and all you're seeing is the negative
Yeah,
attributes.
you might say it's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
The things that I mentioned, and also other things that I could mention, express very obvious experiences and feelings that everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Many lives revolve around this. But I notice that there's often not much consciousness connected to this. It's just so obvious that you don't think about it. There's so much dependency in life. We're dependent on the government or bosses, but you need to deal with that. That's dealing with Scorpio energy. To add a few other meanings of Scorpio, Scorpio also has to do with risks. Risks have to do with dependency. If you put all your stakes, is that how you say it in English?
Put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, or something like that, either financially or emotionally, like in a relation or a business relation with your partner, whatever. When you put yourself in a risky position, it means that you put something important, like your life force, into a relation with one person, with an organization. It doesn't matter. It's like also like giving all your money for some project and you don't even know if that's going to work.
Yeah.
That's Scorpio. Scorpio is about going all the way, leaving nothing in reserve.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have this in their character. When they do something, even a vacation, they go all the way. But some people are more like just easy and not too intense. But some people just like intensity.
Yeah.
When you meet new people, you want to know everything about them, or do all kinds of things with these new people. That's Scorpio energy. Maybe you thought, oh, but I don't have so much Scorpio energy in my chart. Yeah, but you still have it. Okay. And probably it's hidden in your chart, but you still have it. Yeah.
Amazing. I've got so many light bulbs going off right now and a million follow-up questions, but I think we should leave this episode there and let everybody digest everything that has been shared.
Yeah.
Do you have any last summary that you could offer?
Yeah. Well, I'll always make this distinction between assign energy from a place of abundance and from a place of lack or scarcity. For Scorpio, it has been emphasized, especially from a place of scarcity. So people having an agenda or being too involved, secretive people, manipulative people, they all express this scarcity of Scorpio energy. Because Scorpio energy is an energy of passion. The passion of being dependent, the passion of being in a vulnerable position, giving you the most intense experience of life. So
Yeah.
that's what I would like to close off with.
Amazing. Super, super interesting episode. Thank you so much, Vincent.
You're welcome.
I hope you guys have all learned something new. We would love to hear your favorite takeaway. Drop it in the comments below this video and go hug a misunderstood Scorpio in your life. See you next week.